Hart Loewen, if you could come up, please. He has an announcement he'd like to make here. And I'm done here, so I'm just going to... Or Loewen, did I say it right?
I actually changed my name to that just recently. Long story. You know the BC Services card thing you got to get? Some of my documents had a German spelling, some had a different spelling. So I had to find out who married my wife, because some guy by the name of Loew married my wife at one point, and apparently I wasn't that. So anyways, long story. I'm going to do a lengthy announcement at this point, so we're going to keep you all here. If any of you, there's going to be a few people, if your kids are too restless, on either corner there's going to be someone doing coloring with kids, people that have already heard the announcement. But if your parents taking your kids over there, please don't get preoccupied with your children, because I want you to hear what I'm going to say. So, as most of you know, or people that have been here for any length of time, I've been pastoring this church for 32 plus years. Over that period of time, we've seen God do a lot of neat stuff in a lot of people's lives, a lot of your lives here, and lots of people that have moved on. In the last few years, I've become increasingly aware that my time was at some point coming to a close as lead pastor of this church. To be honest, at various points, I just felt like I didn't have the energy that was necessary to keep doing this adequately. Or I thought the word fortitude was something that really described something I didn't have as much as I wanted to at different points. And to be honest, I had times where I felt like I was done. I don't mean done with you, done with done with just being able to do this whole thing. And then God would come along and say, no, you're not quite done yet. And he would make it very clear to me, I want you to stay for a while, and I'm going to bless you. And so he really did. So for several years now, we have intentionally been trying to take steps in terms of, okay, what are those next steps for us as a church in light of that? 2 years ago, we very intentionally took steps to start an internship program. Specifically, just really felt like God said, you need to take active steps towards training pastors, whatever that looks like, whether they end up being an associate pastor or a lead pastor or don't even end up doing that, isn't really the issue. We really felt like, you know what, we need to take steps towards that. And so, as most of you know, we started an internship program at that point with Justin and Mark. Justin has since moved on to continue his education elsewhere. And Mark, we're very thankful, is going to be coming on as an associate. We've mentioned that before already in spring when he's done his internship. So, back in August, in some of my own prayer time, I actually wrote down some of the things I was praying, because I really felt like, okay, God, I got to know, like, what are you saying here? I got to know what next steps are for us. And actually took a chunk of time just to pray really intentionally about that stuff. That was in August. Friday, September 21st, I received a phone call from Mike and Jocelyn Fornwald, who are, Mike is the youth and young adults pastor at Abbotsford Vineyard. Louise and I have known Mike and Jocelyn for a number of years. Abbotsford Vineyard is a church that's a fair bit larger than ours. The gist of the phone call was, we know this phone call might be coming totally out of the blue. And as I describe it, you go, yeah, you got a phone call like that. Okay, what do we do with this? We don't know if you've got things in place as far as succession plans as to who would continue to lead in your role once you're no longer there. If you've got things in place, wonderful. God bless you. Carry on. And so we talked for about 3/4 an hour because, of course, I wasn't expecting a phone call like that at all. But I reiterated, so what you're saying is, if we don't have something in place and if this might be the route to go, you would be open to considering that. And they said yes. Just to give you a little bit of history to that, a year prior to this, Mike and Jocelyn were away on their anniversary in the Okanagan here, and up in Vernon actually, and they found themselves talking about moving to the Okanagan. And as they talked, well, what about Penticton Vineyard? And so they started to talk about that, and I'm not sure how aware they were of just where I had been at different points at that point. But over the next year, this whole thing wouldn't leave. They constantly found themselves needing to think about this, pray about this, talk about this. It just wouldn't go away. They couldn't seem to shake that. And so at our pastor's retreat in April, we happened to have one of our meals with Mike and Jocelyn. Mike was asking me all kinds of questions, and I thought he was just being really concerned and caring. And I found out later he had other things in his mind, and he really wanted to find out. And so, yeah, they obviously found out a lot more just in that process. On the day that Mike and Jocelyn called me, it was again their anniversary. So a year later, after they had kind of felt this prompting from God, is this what God would say to us? And so they happened to be away on their anniversary again, and guess what they were talking about all over again? And so Jocelyn at one point said to Mike, why don't you just call Hart? I go, oh, I can't do that. And so they talked some more, and Jocelyn like, just call him. Okay, I will. And hence I got the phone call at that point. So a week and a half later, Louise and I met halfway with them in Manning Park, and we spent about 4 hours together, each of us just asking a whole lot of questions of each other in light of the possibility of something like this. After that time, our mutual sense, Louise and me, Mike and Jocelyn, our mutual sense was this could just be the Lord. And so out of that just felt like, you know what, I think we need to continue to take next steps towards this whole thing. So we informed a larger group of leaders, a number of you within this church, staff, board of directors, and various other leaders that have been functioning here in a leadership role for some time, and initially just said, okay, here's the deal, please pray. We want to find out, is this God? Is this what he would be saying to us? Mike and Jocelyn were here with their kids about a month ago, October 18th to 21st. They met with our staff. They met with the larger group of leaders that I was talking about. They met with our board. They were here on Sunday morning just to check us out incognito, just see what we're like. Wanted to come on a day where he would not be speaking or anything, but just what does it feel like to just plain walk into Penticton Vineyard? So they were here. Obviously, if some of you know them. And what are they doing here on a Sunday? We just, oh, good to see them, you know. So we asked lots of questions in our meetings in those days. This group of people that have met with them, it's about 26 people that were included in that, really feel like, you know what, this feels like it could be the Lord. And so we have all said, let's keep moving forward. Let's keep taking next steps on this whole thing. So what do next steps look like at this point? They're actually going to be here 2 weeks from this weekend. So December 7th to the 9th, they're planning to be here again. We will on that weekend try to get, there's a number of you who are also serving in different leadership capacities. We'll try to also give you opportunity to meet with them on that weekend. They will share their stories on Sunday morning, and Mike will preach as well. That Sunday night, so December 9th, on the Sunday night, we actually want to have a meeting of all of you, anybody who sees themselves as part of this church, a committed part of this church. We want to meet with you just to talk. Okay, they will have gone home by then, but just a plain talk, questions, etc., just to hear from all of you. I will actually read the names. I won't have them on here on the screen or anything, but I'll read the names of the people that are continuing to be involved in this. We want to hear from everybody in this process. Well, not from everybody, but if you have input to give, we want to hear from you. But that group will be actually the decision-making body. So on the Tuesday, a week and a bit after that, 9th, 16th, Tuesday the 18th, we will meet together and actually make the final decision at that point of whether or not we should invite them to actually come towards us or come to be here in the role that I presently am in. The main questions we're asking are, does this seem like God directing us? That's totally number one. Is this the Lord? Okay? But secondly, combined with that is, does this feel like it's a fit? Or to put it like was mentioned in the book of Acts, does it seem right to the Holy Spirit and us? The church at one point, early church, said, it feels right, it seems right to the Holy Spirit and us to do this. In other words, it's listening to God, but it's also listening to wisdom. Okay? And so that's what we're aiming to do in this whole process. A few things about Mike and Jocelyn. Mike is 41 years old. Jocelyn's 38. They have 4 children, a 13-year-old boy, 2 11-year-old girls who are twins, and a surprise at the end, 2.5-year-old boy. Mike has 16-plus years of pastoral experience. For the last almost 9 years, he's been the youth and young adults pastor at Abbotsford Vineyard. You've heard us talk about Converge. Our youth have gone to Converge for a lot of years, or a number of years. And Mike has been the one who started Converge and has been the one who has been overseeing all of Converge for, just to give you a little bit of a point of reference. He's been doing that on a BC level. In that role, because he's been our BC youth guy as well, that's where I've had a fair bit of connect with him on a regional team level and have gotten to know him that way as well. Mike and Jocelyn are announcing this in Abbotsford this morning as well. So we waited to kind of do it together because we didn't want one finding out before the other. Did you know what's going on? They're also talking about this down there. So if this all went forward, and please continue to hear this from that level, to this point, we go, all those that have been involved go, this feels right. It seems like the Lord. Just a real sense of, it feels like God's leading us in this direction. So, hear everything I'm saying from that perspective. If this is the Lord, they would like to see their kids complete the school year in Abbotsford, so June. So that's what they're thinking at this point. So they would not actually, if it all happened, they would not actually see themselves moving up here till the school year was done. But what we have talked about is having a transition time of about 3 months where Mike would regularly be coming up here, something like April, May, June, or some scenario like that, where he would be able to spend a chunk of time up here, and I would be able to also be there to, let's do some kind of a crossover, where he can ask all the questions he wants, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we realize that potentially this is a huge transition for us as a church, huge change, but also a wonderful adventure. Mike is certainly a competent leader. has many strengths, absolutely love Jesus. Both of them are passionate for Jesus, love his church, are very committed to training and equipping leaders, doing things through others. Very different personality than I am, taller and louder, okay? I would say more of an extrovert than I am, if I can just give you a little bit of stuff. Lots of energy, which is good because my energy has been actually doing this more recently. So he's got lots of energy, lots of vision, lots of drive. Like I say, he loves the church. He loves the Vineyard Church. He's been part of the Vineyard Church for many years. One thing Mike has asked for, Mike and Jocelyn, and various ones of you who have been involved in the process have strongly recommended, and that is that I continue on in some kind of a pastoral role, even after I'm no longer the lead pastor here. That would be on, I would anticipate, some kind of an unpaid basis. But I, at this point, talking to the board, talking to different ones of you, that's our hope, is that I would continue in something like that, whether they would call me Pastor Emeritus or something like that, an honorary title that's often given to pastors as they're retiring, although I'm not retiring. But we would hope to do something like that. I would serve in my strength areas, in areas that Mike would say, hey, I'd love to, could you do this over here? Now, typically in this kind of scenario in the church, Louise and I would leave the church. That's normal operating procedures. Our hope is that we can do it differently, and we realize that that's not the norm, but we've also seen churches where that really has worked. And so that would be our hope. Our hope is to do it on the basis of healthy relationships. Personally, I'm not at a point of retiring. Like I mentioned, I still need to earn a living, and so I will be doing other things towards that. So, we're on an exciting adventure. Even if you haven't known it, we've been on an exciting adventure for the last couple of months for sure. Change, yes. We need to go forward with our eyes open as a church. I would pray that above everything you would pray. If this is really God's church, and we believe it is, then we believe that Jesus is the head of the church. We believe that God leads his church, and we believe that he can lead us here. I believe that this really could be the next steps that God is calling us to take, and I believe that it really could be a vehicle that God would use for this church to thrive beyond where we are at this point. And so, like I've reiterated, there's been lots of prayer that's gone into this to this point, to those involved. It feels right, but we want to now begin to include you in the process as well. And so we want to hear from you, and we're continuing to really listen to God. So, in some ways it feels like I'm kind of giving my resignation today, but I'm not. I'm still here for a little while. But what we are saying is, this is process. We've been praying. I've been praying for a number of years, actually. Okay, God, what's the next steps? And so a lot of things that we've done have been towards that. And so we're confident that God will clearly lead us. So I'm just going to read out the names. I know you're not going to remember the names, but you might go, oh, that's someone that I might talk to, and just to ask some more questions at this point. We'll actually give you the names by email or those kinds of things in the next little bit. And by the way, for people that aren't here, we are videoing this right now, and we will send out a private link to people that were not here this morning, so that people can access that. So here's the names of the ones that have been involved and are continuing to be involved at this point: Greg and Whitney, Mark and Allison, Judy and Wes Pottage, Chad and Deb Wetter, Stu and Lynn Town, Harold and Sinette Lowe, Terry Ingalls, Ron and Tara Lee Crooker, John and Evelyn Briscoe, Derek and Angie, Paul and Janine, Nicole, Ralph and Janet Webb, and Louise and me. There were a few more invited who were unable to participate, but those are the people who have been involved at this point. So please ask questions but there will be also a meeting to ask questions once we've all seen them as well. But above everything, please pray. Okay? Thank you. I'm not sure what the clapping's for. Does that mean it's about time that I did this, or? No. Just kidding. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.